Hello there, guys. I wasn't going to live tonight because I'm quite still, and I like it when I'm still. And but I've been watching everything on social media. Just seen someone come in, and I was just saying I wasn't going to live tonight because I'm very still. I haven't really got a chaotic mind, and I usually only live when I need to get out of my head. But I might have to quickly just go. Let's make sure I close the bottle. I've caught up with. Hello there, Maria. I've caught up with the Conservative conference now, and it's taken me quite a long time to go through all the videos and watch everything that was said at the conference. And I'm really annoyed with myself to a lot of aspects of all of this, because if only I had been coming from sitting in my home, having all of the normal things that everybody has, active working laptop, active working phone, the normal straight income that gives me the space and time to do this, and the team that I have around me. And, I've been sitting here thinking back over everything, really, from when I ever first spoke out in the media, and why I spoke out in the media. And nothing's actually changed for me personally. I'm still struggling with being an EDS mum, with having EDS altogether. Things are really scary, but I have a little faith in Russell Brand. And the reason that I have a little bit of faith in Russell Brand is because guess who's going to be speaking on the National Achievers platform? And it's going to be Russell Brand. Russell Brand is going to it's the wrong platform for him to speak at, by the way, because the people who are there, yes, there's going to be people battling with alcohol, drugs, anything form of rehabilitation. Russell Brand, like most people, understand one thing, and that is drug addiction, and he knows how to overcome that, and that's great. Now, I've been watching where they're going to be putting the money, where they're putting all the infrastructures. I was trying to show you something the other day, and I couldn't take a photograph because, seriously, my phone is a fucking nightmare. I can barely even type on it now. I can't cut and paste on it. I can't use my apps. But look at this. As you know, I went to speak with my MP, who is a Labour Party, and then I spoke with all of the councillors, and one of the councillors here is actually the head of the family side. And then I got a Conservative thing through the door for Donna Jones, which is the basically her wanting to run as an MP. And then I saw this. This is her agenda. Okay, this is what she's pushing. So she's going for free dental for everybody. Bloody good idea. Lovely idea. Dentists aren't going to like it, because if you get rid of privatisation, and they want it all in NHS, but then they're trying to privatise it. So hang on and bear with me. So then we've got 200 more police officers on our streets. So then I'm thinking, that's just Portsmouth. So this big budget that's gone into the policing on our streets, if every single council is putting in 200 new police, so then it's the top 100 children's books. Now, when I looked at it, I thought, okay, you've got 3 agendas there. That is not going to help Portsmouth. So then I looked at it again and I thought, what? Okay, get paranoid head on this. What does it say? Well, that says to me, everybody chipped tooth, controlled by the policing, and brainwashing by the 100 books in every class. Because those books are not inspiring books. In fact, I think the LGBT are taking quite a lot of the top 100 children's books at the moment. So then tonight I was watching Boris Johnson's speech, and then, as I don't know if a lot of people will know, because I don't tend to post out more the stuff that helps me. I tend to post out stuff that I think is going to help sort of in other ways, because I suppose my education and understanding in personal development is like way up there, and I know that there's a lot of people down here that can't take that level of information at this particular point. And also my crack book doesn't run the way that I need it running, the way that when I set out in 2010 what I was doing. It's just that in 2012, when Elijah and Shiloh were taken, everything, I just dropped the ball on everything. And then I just ran. So I left from being positive Kelly, who was just going off snowboarding with the kids, to falling into this absolute fucking pits of fear and like everything to try to stop the adoption of Aaron and Faith. But one of the hardest things in that is I ended up in a boat with lots of other people, and it was like me being in an ocean, drowning and bobbing up every now and then, screaming for fucking help. But rather than anyone actually help me, I ended up with everybody dragging me and drowning me. And it's been really, 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 really hard. At this particular point, my only real friend is a drunken ex-aristocrat. And I struggle having conversations with many people who live in the area where I am, because no disrespect, and I have a lot of love for some of the people that live here, but no disrespect, and this sounds so horrible, but the people that I started Challenge Britain for was for this particular mindset. And it's an uneducated, very closed mindset. And the reason that I find it easier to talk to Graham is because obviously Graham has been educated to obviously quite an elite level, and I can have conversations with him and banter with him. Like the moment he walks in, because he's got this enema he's got to have done, you know, he'll say straight away, you know, no Ash, no bum jokes today. And I say, oh, I'm always going to make a right ass out of you, you know. And we have a really cool, but even though he's a drunk, he's an alcoholic, we have a really cool banter level. But we have we have an understanding with each other more, because we already understand where the history of our royals comes from, where the governance, where the education comes from. And also there's a lot of people who come from one level and they look at this 1% up the top and they just see the control, and even Parliament, and they just see all this stuff. What they don't see is these people are desperate to help and try to serve us. And like even Graham said to me one day, and it really sort of struck home to me, and he said, we've looked after you fucking lazy ass people who don't want to get off your ass and do anything, and we have really tried our fucking damn best, and we just get kicked in the teeth all the time. And I had a conversation with him about this, about his perspective. It's 2 seconds, my son's coughing. He might come through to me. We've got this economy 7 heat and it's killing us in this house. But one thing that's really interesting about Jenny and Graham, right, is Jenny is addicted to nicotine and Graham is addicted to alcohol. Graham can't understand Jenny's addiction to fags, and Graham can't understand Jenny's addiction to fags, and Jenny can't understand Graham's addiction to alcohol. And when you talk to them both and they talk about the movements and habits that each of the opposite one has, like Graham, when he goes to check, because we're actually finally going to clear Graham's old house out tomorrow. And I'm going to get to go through everything, you know, all Graham's mum and dad's will, all his premium bonds, all of the things that obviously when somebody goes to straight through sort of the lines of like all the Eton schools and Cambridge and all that stuff, and then straight into, you know, basically, you know, being raised by Lord and Lady Gold. So that family pretty much governed Dartmoor Common. Now, when they talk about this addiction, it's really quite interesting in how they're both fed up with the fact that every morning each of them wakes up to feed the addiction. So, and I'm coming from a point of view of zero income to be able to feed this addiction, or little bits of income that come in where the priority is the addiction. Jenny wakes up, gets up, starts picking butts off of the floor until she can collect, and she constantly puffs away and feeds her first primal need, which is a fag and a full English breakfast. Graham's is to get up and feed the addiction with alcohol. The problem with alcohol is alcohol changes you immediately. Nicotine keeps you addicted. It keeps you in a rat race. It keeps you in this thing. But alcohol 100% changes you. So then if we bring in all of the different drugs that have existed in this country, so going down from poppies, which is opiates, and which was used for the pain relief, cannabis, all of these are the psychedelic drugs. I'm not a drug user, so I can't really, it's taken me ages to even suss out like what drugs are what street name is for what, and what doodah. I was so lucky because I grew up with a mum who had absolute zero tolerance to drugs, and like I can remember once nearly getting pulled into sort of like, I don't know what it was, like pills of some form. And my word, my mum put her foot down on this whole community that I was hanging around with bang slaps. That was it, you know. And I also grew up on Heatherlands Estate, where the predominant amount of the council estate that I lived on was actually working class. So the majority of people who actually had council homes were people who went to work to pay their rent. I don't think I really remember anybody, even though it was a council estate, really being government supported. Yet there was one family where heroin was a problem, and you saw the difference in that home. And that's something that I remember when I was growing up as a kid, was running through the estate and seeing the difference of the standards. And it was at a time when council didn't rein in who kept rubbish out their front. And my Uncle Peter, rest his soul, you know, God bless my Uncle Peter, he hung himself. But he was one of those ones who had, you know, all the motorbike pieces and all car pieces and all scrap pieces out the front and the sofa and all that sort of stuff. The one that now you wouldn't get away with that for even longer than like a day and a half. And I think the point that I want to make is take Great Britain as just Great Britain, right? So take the philosophy as we're going to be leaving Brexit. So the Gulf membership is going to be over, and we here as a set people on this island are then going to be independent on our own. So that's going to be like taking a child and removing his mum, nan, granddad, uncles, aunts, and all of the foundations and stability that come in. Now, the problem with our country, and not just our country, but the whole world, is I always talk about the root of the tree. And I always talk about foundations and fundamentals. And the branches of the tree. And the reason that I do this is because I'm emphasizing the structures of core belief systems and foundations and how we're educated. Now, nowhere in any of the education in my era do I ever remember, other than the Bible, but do I ever remember anybody teaching about character, about relationships, friendships, how to deal with a breakdown of communication, how to deal with conflict. And we've become a whole country and probably a whole world, not a whole world really, because some of you don't think this way at all. But we've become, our nation here, a bunch of pussies and cowards, really. We train up as soldiers to become frontline defenders. We have people who are put into policing to oversee the policies, policing policies, to basically uphold those policies. And then obviously people train to be the lawyers that defend an attack. And we have all these different structures and all of these different things. But all it is branches of the trees again. We live in a problem reaction country. And we're never, ever, ever going to have a happy, healthy, thriving country for as long as we are a reactive, problem-based country. For as long as we have Conservative, Labour, Liberals, and all of this stuff, it is just never going to work. It doesn't matter how many times they try doing it. I can't think who it was, but somebody said something about you can't create change with the same behaviours. And the structure of the way that our monarchy and our government have worked all this time, and I'll give them their dues. Yeah, I'll give them their dues. You've got a country, I don't know how many people are in Great Britain right now, but you've got a country. So take Great Britain right now. Okay. Put all the people on it, right? Take away all the houses that have been built by builders. Take away the NHS and the doctors. Take away the education system. Take away the binmen and all of that stuff, the cleaners and all of that stuff. Take away the people that man the lights, man the railways, the buses, how the traffic goes around the world. Take away all of the places that create imports for food and things like that. And then just put this island to just all of the people that are in it. No shelter, no food, no transportation, no systems, no welfare, no support for disabilities, mental health, all of that stuff, and no education institution. Take all that away. And then put the people there. At some point, somebody is going to have to stand up and try to gather everybody together, because all that is going to happen is complete and utter anarchy. I mean, I was watching Black Bloc's videos from 2011 and stuff when it really kicked off in London here. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, I mean, this would be crazy. Could you imagine if this kicks off? I was laughing at Boris because Boris said right at the beginning of it, so did any of you actually hear any of that rattling going on out there? You know, and they're basically telling you that it ain't working, mate, because they are so far away from our lives. It's unbelievable. Like, I could never, ever, ever imagine any of them having to put a piece of tissue in there between their legs to prevent female menstruation. Well, not you can prevent it, but obviously to keep yourself clean. Unless, of course, they've got themselves stuck in a toilet and realise it's happened and can't quite scurry out or haven't got anything in their handbag. But they could easily say to somebody, quickly run to the shop and go and get this. Or somebody somewhere would have one. We started in a country where we just mixed flour, water, eggs. We started in a country where it had all these animals roaming all over it, and all these trees and all these forestry things growing, where an animal once died and somebody realised you could eat it. Somebody had to actually physically eat an animal for the first time ever to even realise that you could cook an animal. Somebody had to, for the first time, pick a berry off a tree and taste it. There was a time it wasn't even called a berry. It was just, and it wasn't even a tree. It's us, the human beings, that have created names for things that exist. If you imagine taking Great Britain to a point where it's nothing more than the dust. It's the dust. It's literally the dust. Take the roading out. In fact, how many here can remember horses and carts on the road? How many people here can remember a time in your life that there wasn't one car on the road? Not one. How many people here can ever remember a time? There's quite an important message that's just buzzed up. I've just seen the beginning of it and I feel it's going to be really important. So I'm going to look this way for a minute, and I'd be quite happy if this person just bombarded with everything that he knows right now. That'd be quite cool. So I'm going to look in this direction for a bit just so it doesn't distract me, because this is really important. Watch this. And I want to take the time to actually read that comment and read it out. So, but if you go back to, wow, even to get the horse and the cart, somebody, now I have ridden unbroken horses, mate, right? Somebody, a human being, had to see this horse and think this horse is very lovely and it's eating grass and it does what it does. But wow, can you see the way that it runs? Like, I could maybe get to Co-op down the road really quicker if I got on the back of that horse and that horse shot me down to Co-op. And somebody had to actually physically, and it was the Indians that actually did it. It was the native Indians that, and well, they say the cowboys, but it was actually the native Indians who did it before the cowboys. But somebody had to lasso it, grab it by the neck, throw themselves over. I was a very Indian girl when I was a kid. I like cowboy Indian girl when I was a girl, because I hang around with all the boys, hence why I know a lot of this. Ooh, ow, ow. You know, that sort of history, and why I was into all the Aboriginal history and all of that. My Aunt Melody sometimes watched my live. She's probably got loads of pictures of me with 3 Indian and all my little things, because I used to live in my little Indian outfit when I was a kid. So hence why I find, like, people who have never ever been pulled into you know, civilization. But what you've got to remember as well, and I think it's going to probably come into this message that I'm trying not to see, because I know it's going to take my headspace into bang. The moment I saw that first word, I thought, quick, just wait, just don't read it just yet. The joys of being an Aspie, hey? But labels, all that. Mr. Hans Asperger's. But basically, to go back to that point as well, was when you go back hundreds of thousands of years, people lived very ritualistic, and every day people got up to perform a ritual. whether people believe it or not, the spiritual worlds and dimensions are here. They exist. They always will do. It's forever. It's for eternity. It was before. It will be. It is now. Just because we now walk around, and rather than getting up in the morning and reading our psalms and praying as a family and having a meal as a family and getting on with our service, we now wake up and we get onto these things. And we get caught up in minutiae crap, irrelevant things. We personalize things. We allow for our ego to feed things. We get caught up in pride. We have all these different things. But the reality is that that spiritual battle exists. Now, whether people believe that it's an internal spiritual battle, a doodah, science will prove to you that energy exists. Science will prove to you that you can take bowls of rice, water, any particular matter, even plants, even people, and you can throw hate, anger, aggression, frustration, negative words down, you this, you that, you this, you that. And the rice experiment itself has proven the level of, of mold that produces on the rice, and water in crystallization, the chaos that goes on it, with the power of words and the negativity. And then with positive words, and it's proven. And exactly the same with plants. They've planted seeds in two very different fields, and they have had people sit over on one side and people sit over on the other side, and they've taken like genuine, because you can pretend to be angry but actually your core is not, or you can pretend to be really happy and actually you're really nasty inside. So that's why we have three levels of our brain: our subconscious, our conscious, and our unconscious. And then everybody talks about the ego, but people don't talk about the id or the superego. So what happens is people tend to pickpocket their knowledge, and I find this really difficult. And I love my brain sometimes because I'm able to disconnect from my own belief systems and structures and actually look at other people's, and rather than coming from a judgmental point of view or hatred or a scarcity because they might be Muslim, they might be Jew, wow, Hitler was this and this person did this, and I can't really get caught up in that. Oh, did you hear what she said? Oh, did you know that she was sagging so and so? Oh, did you see her last night? She come in at 2 minutes past 11. That's just drama. That's just false information. That's just somebody's hasn't got much more to do with their lives, because unfortunately they didn't really get any form of understanding in the world. They've never bothered to look at history. They've never bothered to see how we've evolved as people. They've never been to see how much effort has gone in by teams of people. One of the biggest problems with Parliament is we change over every 4 years. When I went to university, and one thing that I've always been, it's never been by my choice, I've always been voted in. I have never ever put my hand up in class and say, hey, yes, I'll be form captain. Nope. It used to get to the end of it, and my name used to be the one that everybody wrote down who they thought would be the best person for the fucking position. And I either had to agree or disagree. And it was like, whatever, if that's what you want me to do, no problem, it's fine. I think when I was about 4, it meant I had to take the register and the milk to the office. So the good thing with me was I've never, ever, ever had this divide in me in hierarchies, if that makes sense, because I was the little kid that used to go down to the secretary's office to take the register and put some bits into Mr. Bamford's office, and I'd have them conversations. And also because when I was at junior school, after my dad left my ex-stepmom and he went to live at my nan's, he used to drop me off at school at like 7:30 in the morning. Because he had to go to work, and my nan's in Borden and my school was in Headley Down, and it was either like an hour walk for me to get there, and at the beginning I hadn't found a walking partner, but I did find one eventually. So my dad used to drive me, but it would mean like getting there at 7:30 in the morning and sitting at school until sort of like 9 o'clock when it used to open. So I used to hang around with the janitors at school, and I used to give them a hand. You know what I mean? So I got to see firsthand at 7:30 in the morning what used to have to go in to school to set it up for the day. So rather than just turning up at school and sitting in my classroom and doing whatever it was that I was told to do and going home at the end of the day, I actually used to see all sides of it. I used to be the one that, used to go around the grounds, make sure it was all sorted, check everything, make sure everything was clean, setting up the kitchen, even down to the fact that when assembly happened, bringing all the chairs out, getting everything done, setting up all the positions, making sure our PE kits stuff was all there and all that sort of stuff. So then when everybody else used to come into school, I used to have more of appreciation. So when people used to just throw something on the floor, or people at dinner time used to be, I wasn't, and not because people had installed into me, you've got to do this or you've got to do that, but because I had taken the time to put that level of cleaning in to make sure that when people came into the dinner hall, that they had a clean space. So because I'd done that, I had more respect for that space, if you get what I mean. And with other people who just come into the dinner hall, they didn't care that the cleaners had just been in and washed all the floor and made sure the cutlery trays were out for them. And because I grew up with my nan as well, and my nan worked at the officers' mess, she used to run all the officers' mess in Borden here, which has just closed down last year for the first time. So I used to have to go into the officers' mess, and I used to see all of the maids, cleaners, that level, and then the officers coming in to have their dinner, and how it used to dispar and the separation. Like my nan used to make it very, 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 very clear that we, the servants, didn't speak or associate with the. So in would come skipping Kelly Hill, Kelly Avis at the time. Yep. That was fine by me. In fact, I used to go and talk to them all, even though I was told that I shouldn't talk to them all. So I used to find my way around, or somebody used to sort of pull me out. So I never really felt that I was lower than anybody. I never looked at other people like that and felt that it wasn't something that I could achieve myself. I just knew they'd put a lot of time in to do that, and how much time went into it. And it was exactly the same when I was living with my third stepdad, actual married one. So it wasn't the third of the relationships that she'd had, but it was the actual third that she married. And he was an importer and exporter for cars. So you got little Kelly, who down this end, who's been picking up like, £200-300 cars and making them last me for a few months, and obviously now going up to a £700 car. To obviously, I used to get picked up from Ash Manor School in Lotus Elise, BMWs, Mercedes, whatever car Trevor was taking across. It was a very, very, very different life to my dad's white little van that he used to go to work in. In fact, actually, the last time I went and knocked on my dad's door, it was so nice to see my dad with a full-blown, proper, workman's van, because his whole life I've watched my dad, and it breaks my heart with all of the tools and all of the skills and all of the education that I have, that my dad started putting his roots down in a life that, for me, because my mum got pregnant, so he took this life for me. It wasn't the life my dad should have had. It wasn't the life that my dad was meant to have. I know full well that prior to my mum getting pregnant, my dad owned a motorbike. I actually saw, the last time I knocked on my dad's door, which was about 2 years ago prior to his accident, 3 years ago prior to his accident, my dad had a motorbike and he had a work van. Do you know how many fucking years of 7 days a week, getting up at 6 in the morning, being at work for 7:30, finishing at 4, 7 days a week, as well as doing floating evening jobs, doing the village hall martial arts when I was a kid and all of them sort of things. I finally saw my dad with a proper white commercial van and his motorbike. It's not the Victorian home that I always remembered my dad dreaming of raising us in, this Victorian home. When we lived at Headley Down, we were on the council estate on this side, and then on the other side was the posh people's home. And when my dad used to go and work at, say, Hilary Burton's homes that were being turned into independent living places, it was over on the posh side. And my dad used to do all the grounds and all the extensions on them, but he never really dwelled into the other homes because it was a dream. It was something that he got up every day to go to work, to make sure that we sustained so did my ex-stepmom. And she used to work as a carer. So you had a labourer and a carer, pretty much having to work all the time. I was a 4-year-old going to the school bus by myself. You know, I had 2 working parents. I got up myself. My parents were very busy. You know, I sorted myself out. I remember my stepmom basically, you know, and then I would skip off down to the bus, and I'd get on the bus, and I was at school all day, and my parents went and worked for basic minimum wage, pretty much. And then at the end of the week on a Friday, I would get a pound mix up, and on a Saturday, occasionally my dad would go to the club, and I would get a cheese and onion packet of crisps and one of them fizzy bottles of Coke. Something that the majority of the world go into the local co-op and buy fizzy crisps and chocolate on a daily basis. Wow, I couldn't have imagined that when I was growing up as a kid. Like, my mix up on Friday was it. Now we got kids that are probably having sweets on the way to school with a couple of packets of crisps, and coming home from school and probably even like throwing 3 or 4 packets of crisps and turning them into little squares and leaving the squares somewhere in the living room, and probably going for a litre of fucking fizzy pop, and a bar of chocolate in the evenings. And you know, the weekends, they've probably got goodness knows, a couple of bars of this one, a couple of bars of that, a couple of different packets of crisps to pull through. You know, it's just, yeah, you know. But, and then I don't ever remember really ever being able to put meat on the table. I was one of those and this is the funny thing about it, and this is why I worry so much for people, because you're not going to get the information. It's not going to happen. Our country is not going to lead us, the people. Boris Johnson isn't going to care or understand or have any perspective of the current situation that each and every one of us is currently in. Boris Johnson doesn't even comb his hair properly, let alone iron his shirts, or you know, we've got people running around with zero integrity. You know, people are married, but they're having affairs. You know, seriously, the majority of the elites are greedy, but not all of them are evil. There is a difference between being ignorant of other people and being self-centered and greedy and not really caring about what other people think about you and not really giving a shit about walking past the homeless person, because it's not really your problem that they're in that situation. In fact, I'm not responsible for the people on the streets or one iota. The person on the streets is responsible for their own lives. But when we, the people, have to sort of come in and go, hang on a minute, we might not be responsible for the choices that they've made. But hang on, we have to answer ourselves a question on why it's so many people on the streets. Why can so many of them tell you of sexual abuse childhood stories? Why can so many of the people who are in the drug clinics for rehabilitation tell you of so many stories of childhood sexual abuse and beatings and being in and out of foster care? And why can, like, all these people that when you speak to them, not one person cannot tell you who they are, what they're passionate about, what they love, what they like to spend their time doing? Because the majority of people don't have the time to do that, because they've got to get up tomorrow to go to work to pay their bills. Because that's what we, the people, have been taught that we have to do. It's only in, say, the second to final year of high school where people talk to you about your options. But these options are subsected by a couple of options that you might choose that is the best of the both situation. But never does anybody sit down with you at that particular age and show you the fucking massive big catalogue that is completely available to you, that you can really cellular just put your heart, mind and soul into one thing, or dabble around with quite a lot of things. We're not given that opportunity. However, that's the difference between comprehensive schools and private schools. I can remember, and I was very, very lucky at comprehensive school, because if there was a school trip, if there was, you know, a school holiday, then even though my dad and my stepmom couldn't really afford for me to do those things, that's how my mum bridged the gap. You know, she would then just make sure that if a school let her come home, I didn't even used to tell her. I just know that it got paid for. She probably found the letters in my bag or something and just sort of did it. And I knew I went on this trip. Or I think it was only ever once that I really ever said to my mum, you know, could I go on this? And I think that was at Ash Manor, and it was going to Holland. And that, again, was a very different experience, because my mum paid for me to go to Holland, but I ended up leaving all my actual friends at school, because none of my friends' parents could afford for them to go to Holland. So I was the chav kid with the money, but I wasn't the sort of person who represented somebody living in money, because I was a chav. Hence why I can slate chavs as much as I like. I got pictures that will show you that I was a true perm spray over chav. I'll doody cack me fucking chavvy. And then going away on that school trip and being with a total different type, the people that I didn't spend time with at school. I was never disrespected. I never bullied the gigs. That was never my role to do so. But I was obviously with the kids where the parents taught you that you get an education, do well and do that. But I hung around with the kids where that really wasn't spoken about, to be honest. As long as you didn't get told off at school, that was pretty much about it, you know. So, but it was a totally different experience for me, because I got to go to the art galleries and the culture and the Anne Frank Museum. And I you know, if people want to talk to me about Nazi and thing, I've been in the Anne Frank Museum. I've been up them really tall steps to get into the place. I have been where, you know, I've read her diary, not from a book that was, you know, in the shop. I have read it from in the, you know, in the museum, in the thing. So I've actually seen the handwritten chapters that she did. So, and that was at a very, very young age. That was at about 13, I think. So, I mean, I didn't just learn about, you know, what happened in Auschwitz and all of that sort of stuff from, you know, the school books that we got. I got to go over and actually see, you know, things for myself, not as it was all going on, but obviously I got a different education and a different understanding of that. But what I'm trying to sort of explain is people who have positive mindsets live very positive lives. People who have negative mindsets live very negative lives. I said something to Dean today that I have to finally make my decisions for myself, whether I can tolerate the sort of relationship that we have. But the difficulty is both me and Dean absolutely adore each other. It's just the residual of the lives that we got caught up in that we're trying to turn and get our lives back to the right place. Dean needs to be sitting in a fucking 3 million, 5 million pound fucking music studio, 30 million pound music studio, sitting, getting in there in the morning, making beats, writing music, you know, laying down tracks, putting together albums, creating the artwork for it, and going out and fucking performing it, and, you know, and taking it out on tour the way that it should be done, and doing his graffiti as and when he does, when he goes, and just for fun. Do you know what I mean? He can always stay anonymous if he wants. It's up to him. He never has to come out about all of his graffiti. He can keep that to himself if he wants to die with it. Do you know what I mean? Nobody has to make him come out. Nobody has to force, you know, his hand. At the end of the day, he's never made the money out of it. The galleries have always made the money out of it, and hence why he's now so fucked off with this UK, because he's been ripped off by the fucking BBC, who've stolen his music. His artwork has been taken by the galleries. You know, people actually go and steal it off a fucking wall, for God's sake. You know, and but the big thing with Dean is Dean's lived with quite a bit of a chip on his shoulder that he's a foster care kid. He's a street kid. He's not just a foster care kid. You know, he's been on the streets, you know, the majority of his childhood life, and into, well, Dean's never really formally ever really been able to settle into sort of normal living. He's street bred and always will be street bred. I don't think you could ever take the streets out of him, because he'll always go down to the streets to help those that are there. He's never, ever, ever going to turn his back on the people who live on the streets. It is just not in him to do so, especially when you've been there. Do you know what I mean? And I said something quite apt to Graham about this today. And I said, if you ever make it back to the life that you should live, like if we go down and we sort this will out and we sort his bonds out and it's all still there, then obviously he's looking at quite a considerable amount of millions of money, and I get 10% of that. Mental, in it. And obviously it could have all been put into the pot again, because I know what happens with probate wills, and if they're not claimed within so long, then it just gets put into government trust fund money. But legally he can actually access that back out. He just has to do it, and he's been too drunk to do it. But my point being is, I said to him, to crash from such a high place, as in to never have to think about, like, when he first become an alcoholic, I mean, you've got to remember that the aristocrats' children were growing up with banquets, with, you know, 2 bottles of wine being the complete norm, with champagne flowing like absolute mental. Even Boris Johnson said it himself on his first first moment when he started speaking, you know, he was talking about everybody being at the hotel the night before, you know, and what it's like. And I know what it's like. One, I've been a fucking escort for him in Manchester every time they turn up for the conferences, and I used to get booked big stuff, shit like that. You know, two, I've been there as sort of like a kid who's been invited to do this because I was part of all the youth programs and mentoring programs. My dad's photographs just fallen down. Do you want to see my dad? Funny enough, guess what day my dad's birthday is? The 13th of December, the day my children were taken. Let's see my dad. My dad. See, me and my dad look like each other. My dad doesn't talk to me, by the way. My dad doesn't want anything to do with me for as long as I talk on social media. So, but there's my man of my life. He is absolutely adore my dad. Like, my dad was my absolute hero when I was a kid. And it was really funny, actually, because I always go out and take the kids to say night to the cats and stuff at night. And if they're up, I will sneak down when the foxes are up. Sometimes I'll even wake them up to come on. I've done it with all my kids to come and watch the foxes and stuff. And my dad couldn't shoot a fox. My dad's not a hunter. And this is the difference between the hunters and the gatherers and things like that. My dad is what you call a working class man. My dad has never been an alcoholic. In fact, when he doesn't smoke, he's very anti-smoking. He's never been involved in drugs. He was a bit of a rogue when he was a kid before I came into the world. But because he had me, and he had responsibilities, and he had, like, you know, having to literally go to make sure there was a home. Like, my dad's a builder. Do you not think my dad can't build a house? My dad could build a house with his fucking eyes closed. Yet my dad has never achieved land to be able to build his own home. Between my dad and my Uncle John, they could be building homes left, right, and centre. And I love my dad, and I'm not here to slay my dad in any way, shape, or form. But my dad has always had that mindset, them and us. And that has always kept my dad never, ever achieving what my dad ever could have probably have achieved in his life. And that's very sad, because now he's had an accident. He has been thrown into the disability. I have argued relentlessly with my stepmom and my mum, who my mum is involved with my dad now, but I have argued relentlessly to stop telling my dad that that's it, there's nothing he can do. Because actually, my dad could write a book on safety ladders for all they know, and go to colleges talking about, you know, the important vitalness of health and safety on ladders, because of course my dad fell off a ladder and had a serious accident not long after the second time. In fact, the first time I asked my dad to speak to me, he fell off a motorbike, and the second time he fell off a building, not caused by me, but calm as a bastard. You know, my dad is going to have to learn the laws of the universe one day. But one thing that was great about my dad is my dad was a martial arts. Like, you know, I grew up with pretty much every night my dad training, going to training, you know, it was a different hall pretty much in Borden, and he would run the adult classes. And then obviously as I got old enough, he started running children's classes, but I was the only bloody girl until another girl turned up. I was the only another girl all the way through, but I went to his classes anyway. I was the little girl in the corner, do you know what I mean? I was the little girl that, you know, used to sit and roll the belts up and the things like that, and play with the nunchucks. I grew up on Bruce Lee films and things like that. So I grew up on Bruce Lee's philosophy of be like water, you know, and the punch. So I understood the power of focus. So I got that from a very, very young age. Until we really want something in life, until we find that thing that we want to get up every day to focus on, and just can't stop until eventually we're that knackered that we want to go to bed. And until you find that thing, when Joe Medforth's head was stamped on that day, and I've talked about this a few times on how unity in the community was created in the first place. One of the things and one of the models, so basically when I created Unity in Community, Challenge Britain, Step Up Britain, blah, 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 it was all basically a model based on one, our planet, and how the fundamental core values and needs for our planet, not all the shit that's going on it, but back to the core. And then it was obviously the nature side of all of that, the Mother Earth side of it. And then looking at the habitat side of it, so us, the human species, Homo sapiens, if that's what you want to call us, to the dynamics of the plant structures, animals and things like that, down to little mice and fish in the sea. And the basic fundamental needs of every single human is the same. It doesn't matter whether you're black, white, Indian, Pakistani, small, short, fat, thin, we all have the same basic fundamental needs. We all need and must have certainty. We all need and must have variety. We all need to contribute. We all need to grow. We all need to have love, connection. These are just the basics of it. And I'm not even talking about Maslow's hierarchies of need. That is just something else that's based on man-made principles. You know, I'm talking about coming through your true essence of your true authentic self. I love helping people achieve who they are and what they want to be. I love helping people discover who they truly are, away from all the shit, away from all the crap that's been thrown on them, away from all the shit that's happened to them, away from the belief systems that have been dumped on them, the dogma, and to actually uncover all of that and give someone the space to go, oh my goodness, can I actually think for myself right now? I don't know, my mum shouting in my ear, my dad doing this, my cousin down the road, my next door neighbour, my teachers and all this stuff, and the media and all this stuff, just to get somebody away from all of that and just to actually focus on the true essence of them. Some find they're painters, some find that they're really into their music, some find, you know, that there's something that they really, really wish that they could have done or tried, or if I'd been, you know, if I'd gone to school, I could have just done that. But unfortunately, we are not going to have a prime minister who's going to be coming in and breaking down that dynamics. What he's going to be doing is he's going to be creating a riot. We're going to be going into the biggest fucking riot ever, and that's not good. It's going to have a lot of catastrophes, a lot of unnecessary blood spill. I mean, as soon as they bring the more policing in, I put a post out today of the sort of police I want to see on the streets. Not this, your name's not down, you're not coming in sort of thing. But we need police. We need police. There are bad people. There are people doing bad things. And before I go, and on that note, I'm going to turn my eyes to this message and I'm going to read it in a minute. Yeah, I thought it was going to be what I thought it was. 68 million people in this satanic country, which is preparing for the new world order. Every day is becoming darker. Look at what is happening up in the Warwickshire in the schools. All the controllers are psychopathic satanics and people who need to wake up to the deceit and deception which we've been indoctrinated since birth and beyond. Right, please remember, I don't know if anybody knows, but the Vatican was raided today. I don't know the outcome of what's gone on. Everybody's looking over here at Boris Johnson and thinking that Boris Johnson is the leader of us great British people working for the Queen. That's the Houses of Commons. It's for the common people, yeah? We just get the common people media, okay? Then there is the Houses of Lords that has its own Boris Johnson in there. But we don't get to know or speak or hear about this stuff, really, do we? Isn't it funny that today I put up a post about something Graham had said, and obviously within this post, I had actually stated that Graham's mum was or is, well, obviously she's dead now, but she was like the right hand person to the Queen Mother, not the Queen, but the Queen Mother. And obviously Graham's father then was a tutor at Cambridge University, but he was a barrister, so he was also a Lord Doodah. So that's gold. I'm still trying to do some research because there seems to be some stuff that's not up that I've got paperwork for here. So tomorrow I'm going to be going through and I'm going to be double confirming some stuff and double checking some stuff. But isn't it funny that I posted the attitude that the royals had, the real one that we all know, but what everybody doesn't say, all Graham goes on about. And it'd be funny now if all of a sudden this post gets flagged up and this video gets taken down, because I get this every time I mention stuff like this, every time I cross over to try to make the common people realize that we have been subdivided, yes, and actually our Boris Johnson is our Prime Minister. So just remember something. An MP is a member of Parliament, a member. Okay, so they have to be a member. What do you have membership for? You have a subscription. You have a membership to the gym. So therefore, you pay a membership to be able to attend your gym to use the facilities. How they pay a membership to facilitate their things. On another point on this before I leave, I'm just hot in on that a minute, because obviously we're coming up to Halloween, and we're coming up to this particular date where all our unfortunate satanic sides of things, you have to remember, look, before I go, whether you believe it or not, light and dark exists. Nighttime, daytime, dark, light, good, bad. Take the word good, take the O, you got God. Go to evil, add a D, you got the devil. However you want to play with words, whatever it is that you want to do, whether you want to use the light as positive words and the dark as negative words, either way, polarity exists. Whether you want to think of it as a spectrum or whether you want to think of it as a diversity, it doesn't really matter. If I said to you, I have to be careful because I'm a bit left-legged and my camera's the wrong way round. As I've told you, my equipment is fucked. I can't even write my book because I can't get a Word document on here. I can't even download the free ones. My equipment is shit. So if I said to you, oh, seriously, my hands are a spacky, I get it. I can't put my hands up straight. Where to be straight? Right. It's like my computer was upside down because the kids had done it. I was trying to scroll on it, and it's getting your brain to work differently. It's like a muscle. And that's what I'm asking you to do. There are belief systems that somebody has put into your subconscious, unconscious, and conscious mind. I desperately, desperately ask you to please understand these different three facets within your human consciousness. Once you get this, once you understand that there are belief systems that you have that anchor you and prevent you from having the life that you really truly should be living, once you realize that, you can do something about it. If you decide that you want to be completely ignorant to it, you don't want to accept that you had trauma in your childhood, or you're going through trauma now, or actually, like, you know, Jefferson is saying that we have been indoctrinated, basically. We have been, so say this lady, not this lady, that's my dad. Say this lady gets the top 100 children's books in every class. Who decided what those 100 top books were? Not many children are encouraged to read these days. So at the end of the day, it was decided by government who decides what goes on that list of books. I know full well that I have taken books into school that my mum has given me to read out. I have been in detention. Now, the one from Wicked Women probably wasn't a good idea, because she decided to completely take the piss of it and get me to read a sludge about, you know, her tongue sliding in between his coffee-sodden mouth. It's probably not funny and very not appropriate, and I'm not surprised they didn't let me bring that one in. But I think we've just got sick and tired of all these great coaching tall books that they just wouldn't let me bring into school. So my point being, as I said right at the beginning, people do rituals for good things and they do rituals for bad things. Footballers do rituals. I know, because I teach them. You'll see many footballers as they run into the arena, they'll jump and they'll tap the top. Golf people will tap their club. Bowlers will twist their ball. Tennis people might click the back of their heel. That is something that puts them in state. Every single person, I'll do a video on being in state if you want, but every single one of us should be showing up tomorrow the best version of ourselves, working to our true full potential. Unfortunately, the 99% of people won't. The 99% of people are either going to get up and probably close their eyes out, smoke a joint, drink a drink, take a bit of drugs, stick a bit of heroin, you know, and fuck their day up. Some of them are going to get up and fight some battles. Some of them are just going to get up, drop kids off at school, go to work, come home, stick EastEnders, Emmerdale, Coronation Street on, and probably think about Friday and going out on Saturday and getting some housework and some ironing done on Sunday. And that is as far as those lives will ever, ever, ever go. There's so much I can say on this, but I'm not going over my hour because it's just, I've already gone over it. It's just absolutely pointless. It's great that I can watch these back and I can learn from them, but I got to start coming back out now and start doing some really short videos, because I need my message to get out. I know what I'm talking about is right. I know they have to. We, the people, have to start building these infrastructures and proving how for a few of us that we can actually create really great environments that work collectively, be it 5 people, 10 people, 20 people, 200 people, building within our own communities. It doesn't matter if it's around the world or on your doorstep. It doesn't matter. But one thing that is proven is that people who are in good supportive networks thrive and don't really turn to drugs or alcohol. People who are isolated and suppressed will turn to suppressants. And I'm hoping to God that Russell Brand is going to completely smash the whole concept of the drug war on drugs. One, by reminding people that it's a war on drugs because it can't be controlled for money purposes. And again, it's a whole different topic of conversation. What I want to say to you is, you're not lower than anybody else. I'm not lower than anybody else. I'm not above anybody else either. We are all knitted in our mother's wombs in exactly the same way. We were all conceived from our father's penis entering into our mother's vagina. We were all created in exactly the same way. Some, it was done in a love act, some a fucked act, some even against consent. But ultimately, the penis entered the vagina, or somebody got a big syringe and did it from those people that are messing with the natural laws of the universe. But we all grew from 24 chromosomes, unless Downs. I can start listing every chromosome missing now. So, you know, we all came from our mother's womb or ripped out from a cesarean section. We all came into the world years and years and years and years and years ago. Most mothers, not many mothers actually survived. In fact, they're all sort of talking about the rare breed of single fathers now. No, mums died. Yes, there was many single fathers with nannies for many years. They just got on with it because the wives had died. They had to. Or these children went off into this network that we talk about with forced adoptions and foster care and all the children going off to cleaning and stuff like that. What I want to say is, as human beings, as a planet, as a nation, we've had a past, we're in the present moment now, and we have a future. And the way that Boris Johnson is talking now, nothing's going to change. Everything that he's laying down is coming from a reaction to the problem. That is never going to work. You got to get to the core of the problem. You got to rip the gangrene out. You can't keep putting plasters over gangrene. You have to amputate it, or you have to dig it out. They are not willing to put the time and effort in to do this. All they do is put plasters over. So it's up to us to rip our own plasters off, allow our own gangrene to come out, allow for our own trauma and our own healing. They ain't going to help heal you. They're not going to help you achieve your dreams. They're not going to help you disconnect from the TV, the internet, or whatever other things and get back into reality. They're not going to help you teach the tools on better relationships. There's people out there that do. You can go on Google right here, right now, 2 seconds. Let me do it before I go. Effective communication. Just straight in there before we go. Oh, I've got some fucking Bing thing on. It's doing my head in. Where's my Google? In fact, where's my little secret one gone that I had on there? All right, I've just gone with the complete top one that comes in. 14 best practice. Ah, see, this is all this spam thing that comes up that I really need, that I don't know how to do. Effective communication is a critical leader skill, but it takes practice. So what have we got? Very quickly before I go, just to prove point. Be relatable. Empathize your key points through repetition. Keep a good sense of humor. Actively listen. Respond in a timely manner. Remember, you're always on. Analytically are key. I know what that was. Adapt readily to any situation. Be present. Find your own voice. Write everything down. Put your audience at ease. Customize your communication style for each employee. Ask before you speak. Okay, I don't see any of that coming from our leaders right now, do you? No. So all they're going to be doing is focusing on more policing. They are going to look at the teeth. And the reason they're going to look at the teeth is because so many children now are coming through with problems with their teeth that we're falling back into the times of Queen Victoria with all the teeth, and effectively try to educate children with books. The problem that we have to ask is with the spelling of words and with the uses of words and the manipulation of words, why are you not taught that words have power? Now, I'm going to have to challenge myself. I'm 3 days into October already. So I'm going to completely shut my own self down. I should have already started this. I should have already gone there. I might have to move it into January to do this properly for you guys, because I haven't packaged it up for you to do. But for me, I'm going to start here and now, because change happens when you decide it changes, not when you go through some form of rehabilitation or social care. I hate the way the whole social care system is created from day one. That model is the shittest model I have ever seen. It does not deal with personal-centered dynamics at all. Psychology, if they even bothered to actually take the time rather than just write the report on the parents, if they actually had the time to turn up to attend these meetings, they would go into these meetings and go, what the fuck, seriously? Is this what we're writing? And they would. Yeah, I can guarantee you, if you actually got a psychologist to actually sit in a multi-agency meeting, they would be fucking shocked the way that somebody is put through. Because if I go to a coach now, I can tell you exactly what we would do with someone. And it's nothing. They're only just starting to get taught by people like me. This is the funny thing about it. Even Graham has said, they are shit scared of you, Kelly, because I don't think they've seen anybody as educated as you on all of this stuff, and they know it. They know. I find it really funny. I don't want anyone to be scared of me. I just want government to listen and, don't steal the model that I wrote for you, but actually implement it and put it in place. And yes, that is going to have to mean that we have to banish parties for our leadership. It has to be positions. We have to have longevity in this. We have to have somebody here in Great Britain that is willing to, go the whole until they're either going to be dead. Could you imagine if we change queens every 4 years? I think that says it all. On that note, I will leave it. It's time for a change on all of those heads. But yeah, the Queen has managed to take us from there all the way through because she's had longevity. However, Parliament hasn't. And I can guarantee you now, unless you are willing to start working out how you can be the best version of yourself, nobody's going to do it for you. And yet our government are leading us into a very, very, very dark place. It's very sad what's coming to us now. It's very sad. You might all still have your nice little mobile phones as a distraction right now. But one day, maybe 5-10 years, you're going to go, shit, we could have really have made a difference right now. And you chose not to. There's going to be so many more deaths, so many more suicides, so many more children taken, so many more children taken to feed the dramas of it. So I'm going to bind my mouth from this point forward. I've become very negative myself. So this is being zipped. And I've got to start looking after myself better because I've come into a very negative world and it's ended up making me feel very sad and very angry, and I swear a lot. And even Graham said to me today, and it was over something very, very, very simple, and I went, no, it won't be that one. He said, when did you become so skeptical, Kelly? Like, what made you become so skeptical? What happened to you? So he said, what happened to you? And, a lot has happened to me. but I can't allow for what's happened to me define who I really am, because I'm better than that. I'm better than what's happened to me. And I can't let what happened to me and to my children, and I can't let that take any more of my life. And I deserve to be happy, as so do you. We all deserve to be happy. They can't knock us all down, and it's all about us all individually taking back our own heart, minds and souls, getting our own homes in order. They can't stop you going, that's the home that I want to live in, and going, boom, in order to get there, I've got to do X, Y, and Z. And that's fine, and that's going to happen. But to go to work 7 days a week of your life, to not really ever actually, I don't really know much about my dad's life in terms, I know he goes to America a lot, but he goes over to, you know, see my stepmom's family. But I know my dad's going to die with many dreams inside of him. But hopefully maybe not, because if I achieve mine, then I can't wait to buy my dad his Victorian house that he wanted to live in. And maybe it was by putting so much, you know, values and thrashing my head with Bruce Lee, and being in an environment that didn't allow for me to judge, you know, because there was people that had Down syndrome and very bad, you know, like very, very genuine, real severe injuries and stuff. So, you know, my dad gave me a very blessed opportunity to grow up in a world that prevented me from being like that. So, and I'll always thank my dad for that. You mums out there, before I go, you mums, I've got one issue with a set of people that I really don't have the time for. But you mums that mess about, do you want to know why this world is really fucked up? And it isn't the 1% doing it. It's the people that alienate the fathers that are screwing this world up. The people who are putting these men down. With real men in this world, we don't have any problems. So God help the real men step up. And these women that are alienating the fathers. And if Parliament taught them, us all properly, through the education system, then we wouldn't need to have all of this policing. Take away the war on drugs. We wouldn't have all of these clinics. We wouldn't have all of these problems. Wow. It keeps going on and on and on and on and on and on. Let's hope we can draw the line this year, hey? I really, really, really would love to cross into January knowing that the real swamp got shrunk, drained. The gangrene of the UK has been removed. And it isn't that much of people in corruption. It's just, unfortunately, the majority of people are governed by media. I don't read papers. I'll have a quick look just to see what they're looking at, but I don't get caught up in it all anymore. And I'm going to be coming off this soon as well, permanently. That's like absolutely permanently. I'm not going to be coming on at all. My books will be sold on there, but I'm not going to be coming on. I will probably come on once a month for a live, maybe. But I always knew I was going to anyway. I just never realised how much control they really, really can have over your social media. I knew, but I didn't see the effects of it. So someone like me that bangs it out the way that I do should be up there on the millions and stuff, especially as I've been here 9 years. Yes, says it all. Yes, I put up a post today naming Graham's mother, and lo and behold, it's gone down. It got taken down very quickly. But we'll see. We'll see. But anyway, guys, please, 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 please have a look at your belief systems. Please have a look at why you believe what you believe. Where did it come from? And imagine if maybe you could get rid of the weed, plant something new. And I just would like to see a world of people happy. That would be lovely. Just like to see Great Britain people happy. Words. I'd love it. I had a bad experience today in a shop just because a woman wanted to get off the till because she'd been at work all day. I would rather have somebody serving me in a shop who wants to serve people with their basic needs. There are people that want to do that. There are people that like making sure that people are going home, making sure that they have their basic needs. So let them people do those jobs. Let people do the service that they want to do. And if you don't like your job, if you don't want to be in your job, please fire yourself. Please. Because if you don't want to do your job, you're causing aggro and hell for other people. Because you're not being efficient and true to your true authentic self. And your energy is bad. So actually, you're not helping, you're hindering. So sack yourself and go and do a job that you really love and really want to do. So then you can be a blessing to the world. And that would be really great if every single person here in the UK knew where they wanted to be and where they wanted to help and serve and what they could do. Then, yeah, perfect. Someone's got to clean the streets. Someone's got to pick the rubbish up. We can't do it all ourselves. Yes, we could have lovely little homes that pressed and recycled, little bits, and we can have all of our compost and stuff like that. But we need somebody out there leading that. Somebody who's telling us, come on, grow your own veg. Let's shut down all the big industry fucking shops. Let's rape it. I would love to. Seriously, mate, I owned Great Britain, mate. I'd get rid of all of your fucking Tesco's, all your fucking supermarkets, and we'd go back to being a good old, proper, real country. Yeah, it'd be amazing. Yeah, in fact, I'd love to have my own island with, people that want to get out and grow their own veg and do things and sit down and have meals and live a very, very simple life. No greed. We don't need all these things. I shouldn't need to be fundraising for fucking 24 fucking billion pounds to be able to evenly distribute that between all of the people that are on, this social care level to make sure that their needs are met. That's mental. Do you know what I mean? It's mental that a hospital bed costs so much. You get me? It's mental that pharmaceutical stuff costs so much. It's just mental. So anyway, I wasn't going to come live tonight. I wanted to see what I wanted to talk about. I could actually probably still get quite a lot of stuff off my chest right now. And yeah, so anyway, I'm going to go and watch some Peterson for a bit. I might post a bit more of his stuff out this week as well, because you guys don't like my coaching stuff. You don't like the positive stuff, and you certainly don't like the biblical stuff, because unfortunately the majority of people that are following me are atheists, pagans. So the moment I put anything out there that is 100% like, light of the world stuff, I get absolutely crushed. You want to hear about the stories of babies being raped and children being raped and all this depressing, you'll share my post then. But I really, 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 really want to make sure that my social media is running beneficial for you and beneficial for me. Amber is there doing stuff, but I really need these fundamentals and foundations, and my platforms have to be built, because right now I'm looking at the great stage, and there's screws over there, and there's bits over there, and that's over there, and the walls aren't built, and the roof's not on fucking on, and da, 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 da. But in order to put it together, you know, it takes some instructions and steps and processes, and if you miss one of them, that stage is going to fall down. And I have children, and I can't afford to live like that. So and I need to take back even more control of my life, because don't forget, I came into social media purely for Step Up Britain. Then I've announced my kids have been taken, and my social media has turned into something completely different, and I hate it. I hate it. I despise it. I despise coming into this space now, and it's not a happy place for me anymore. It's not a nice place for me to come in anymore. It's not a lovely, amazing, beautiful, positive, you know, creativity. I used to have beautiful art and beautiful music, and, you know, lovely things, and great inspiration, and lovely positive stories, and, you know, my timeline represented, you know, who I am. Yeah, not what I'm labeled as, but me, who me is. Not Kelly, that my dad decided to call me, but the essence of my true authentic self. And now I don't have that anymore. So yeah, we're 3 days, we're the third day into October, but there's no time. Like, you know, why wait until New Year's to, you know, restart your life? Why not make sure that from this point forward, you know, by Christmas, you don't have to wait until New Year to change your life. Do you know what I mean? So maybe with this point here now, you know, we'll make sure that you can have a lovely winter, a lovely end of the year, and bring 2019 together. You know what I mean? For Britain, for the world, for us as individuals, for us as families, and for us as communities. Then yeah, that would be really good. So anyway, I'm going to go and be with my dad for a bit. I'm going to go and reminisce and maybe watch. In fact, you know what? I'm going to do lots of stuff about dads and daughters for a bit. I'm going to come out about daddies and daughters, and I'm going to literally manifest that I'm going to go and see my dad and sit down with my dad. And I'm going to put all my focus right now and all the way forward into me and my dad. I've had enough of my mum and all the stepmoms coming in between the real love of my life. And that's my father. Not my father there, who has kept me going for so long. But I want my biological father, my real father, my dad. And with him in my life, I know everything will be good. Because he's my dad. So, see you later.